what to do with my hand.
I was just going to say that. Damn it. You made the joke before I did.
We're back. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, children and babies. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Devin Morgan, Director of Baseball at Driveline, founder of the Driveline Academy. That's Jeremy Tectiel, Assistant Director of Driveline Academy. This is the world's most dangerous youth baseball podcast, the Driveline Academy podcast. And we're in a new place.
It's very different.
It's
same place, different vibe.
We haven't revealed the whole change. We'll ideally do that next week and be able to show the actual thing. But now we can sit and
some comfortable chairs, not stools anymore.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Big upgrade. Housekeeping, first off the bat. Axbat.com, code DL20.
This is what they wait for every week.
Darkness Lightning 20. Ooh. Get yourself 20% off. Game bats, training bats, other bat stuff. Axbat.com. Darkness Lightning 20. Get yourself 20% off. And shout out to you guys because, again, we said that the intention of this whole thing was for us to get some funds we can deploy directly into scholarship. Yeah. We had a very short first period of that, I think in Q3, moving into Q4. And it's good. We're off to a great start. So thank you guys for the support. It's hugely impactful. And again, it's not going to my jet ski fund, to your international travel foray. It is going directly into money that we allocate specifically to be able to let kids be able to do the thing that we do here. That or otherwise might not have the economic resources to participate.
And congratulations on your new Axbat. Enjoy it.
Yeah, go do the thing. Go do that. So axbat.com. DL20, 20% off. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Pod numbers continue to pod, well up into the 70s, 71 right now, which is tight. So thank you guys for the likes, subscribes, the listens, the reviews, all that stuff is hugely impactful. If you've been listening to the show and you haven't dropped a review, it would be greatly appreciated if you can do that, because all that happens is it basically takes your review and then broadcasts it out to other people that might have similar interests. So if you have someone that you want to influence/corrupt into the way that we think about youth baseball, if you can do that, that would be great. Man, there have been a lot of stuff that's transpired since we last did one of these. And amusingly, I recorded the one last week just to make sure we had one, because we missed 1 week because the pod room was down, and then I came in to do one. I was sick, and I shot the whole thing, right?
And then you did a one on Wednesday, when I had the accident getting some sticky spray from mocap in my eye.
Yeah, be careful. Safety first, guys. So I shot the whole thing, right? And it's I'm shooting it on Thursday, trying to get it out on Friday. And I go home and I render it out. And then I'm doing the playback to try to figure out what the clip is going to be. And I look and I was like, oh yeah, the camera's just looking directly up at my shorts. Yeah. It was Driveline Academy crotch power hour. For 52 minutes.
That is the most dangerous baseball podcast.
Yes, it's okay, so we're going to reframe this before we export. So if anybody's watched last week's episode and it feels like the framing is really tight on me, I'm no less egotistical than I was a week ago. I'm just not trying to put my crotch on the internet.
Yeah. That's for our Driveline OnlyFans account.
Yeah. If we're really hard up, unintended.
Yikes.
For scholarship dollars, maybe that's a thing we'll do. Actually, that's never a thing that we're going to do. It's been a week, and I wanted to start with a shout out to one of our favorites, national analyst, former Mariner, baseball pariah, suntan enthusiast,
part owner of my adopted basketball child, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, facts. Spray tan enthusiast. Let me actually back up. So World Series just got finished, and it's the lowest ratings that it's ever had. And I'm aware that in the streaming era, in the internet era, we're just not going to go back to 19, was it 78 or 79 when Reggie Jackson went?
When there's 4 channels to watch?
Yeah. I mean, my mother likes to tell a story that we were watching that World Series where Reggie Jackson became Mr. October, and I was on my mom's lap next to my Uncle Greg and my Uncle Ben. I think my Uncle Dennis was there. And it was everything. Yeah. In part because there were 4 channels.
Right.
So the ecosystem is different.
Yeah.
Things have changed. But I'm fairly convicted that if the guys that are broadcasting the game and talking about the game and leading the discussion about the game, both on the broadcast and on their socials, if they didn't actively hate the state of the game,
Yeah.
then like maybe more people would want to watch.
Yeah.
And it's amusing to me that like MLB has decided, apparently, by virtue of some of these choices, that they would much rather curry favor with guys my age.
I mean, one of the biggest stories, like at least on my social media timeline, which we've gone over on this pod, not a big social media guy, but like one of the biggest stories was Chris Russo, who, if you didn't assume this already, is very high on my list of people I never want to hear talk again. Said something to the effect of like, I will retire if the Phillies lose. He's a liar because he didn't do that. But also like, you're setting everybody up for like nobody should watch this Diamondbacks team.
Yeah,
100%. Like the Phillies lose, why even watch the World Series?
100%. And
that's a guy that is still on MLB Network, still being paid by the league to talk about the league.
Which is just, I think, the galling part of this, because by choosing to curry favor by old guys like me who don't have access to a time machine, I think you're actively neglecting the opportunity to cultivate interest with younger kids.
Right.
And the funny thing is it's like, I'm around kids a lot because I'm here, right? And I have children this age. And yeah, as we talked about, I think a couple episodes ago, a lot of kids they're not going to watch a full-on 9-inning game.
A lot of humans, but sure. Yes, kids
right.
For sure.
Like, that's just not going to be a thing. You know, when I talked to my mom this morning, and she's like, I really like the fact that they've made the games shorter. Like, fine, I can take that signal. But when I listen to kids talk about the game, they might not talk about the entirety of that 9-inning game. But they're going to talk about, oh, do you see that pitch somebody threw on that was on Pitching Ninja? Right? Oh, did you see how hard that ball was hit?
Yep.
That's what their conversations are revolving around. Brings me back to my point. I'm innocently, like a babe in the woods, just a naive little internet user, scrolling my Instagram, and I see, spray tan guys' face pop up on my feed. I don't follow, I typically don't engage, but I'm curious. Like, what? Because it's World Series time. What does he got to say? And he goes on this whole rant about how kids, parents, right? Because he's trying to talk to me.
Sure.
Parents, don't measure your kid's bat speed. Don't measure exit velocity. Don't measure thrown ball velocity. He literally, I'm pretty sure, said it's like the worst thing that you can do for your child. Sure. And it occurs to me that when you have guys like that on the broadcast hate on the state of the modern game, and then on their socials hate on base level analytics that have an opportunity to engage kids in the modern game, it is no great surprise to me that we are struggling to find viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we can go down this path about engagement, of which, we've, again, the horse's dead, jello-y flesh mass. My kids literally just the other day got the email of like their assessment from last spring from the school district. It's information that I get that I can use to help my child. Mm-hmm. Right? One of my kids is really good on the mathematics side and on the English side. One of the other ones is really good on the English side, and the mathematics stuff has been a struggle. So, context, the test was from last spring. That child of mine, because I don't want to out them publicly, has actually like figured some stuff out. But had I got that information earlier, and that's a whole other conversation, I think I would have been able to intercede and say, hey, this is something we need to focus on a little bit more directly, right? Because the assessment suggests that he's
proactive instead of having to be reactive, like having to get some bad results before you make a change. It's better to know as much early on and be able to be proactive about that before bad results happen. Is that what you're? And how dare you? That's totally off basis.
And I just, in what other sport is there such like this active repulsion towards information?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this in the pod, right? But like, analytics has brought changes to every single sport, and we are consistently the only one that has to listen to the broadcasters of our sport.
Yeah.
Talk about how bad that is, how bad of a thing that is for our sport. Like, you don't listen to NBA. I am sure there are old guys who used to play in the NBA who hate the fact that the
Sure.
game is now like all threes and,
Sure.
and in the paint, and like nobody takes the long range, the mid
Long
range
range
two.
twos, but
Right,
yeah,
right.
because 3 is more than 2.
Correct. I'm sure there are those dudes are out there that are like, well, this isn't how I played and they're just not being given a platform to
Yeah.
speak on.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like, I'm sure there are NFL running backs that
Yeah.
are just like, this stinks that the game is just all like geared towards passing nowadays. Like, what happened to the running back who's running for 1,800 yards a year and gets 30 carries a game? Well, that guy doesn't exist because
There's a more efficient way to move the ball.
right, and that plus it turns out that like your bodies break down really fast if you run that amount per game. Yet I have to listen to people complain about the fact that starters only go 5 innings. When we now have information that says like they're not as effective that third time through, and health-wise, let's not have them throw 140 pitches. But I have to hear that, but they don't have to hear that in their sport, and it's so frustrating. Like, I don't watch a ton of football on Sundays because we have our outdoor practices, but I watch a little bit, and like when I do watch, I am one of those people who's going to watch Red Zone. Like, I don't like commercials; just give it to me like into my veins.
Yep.
There's been some injuries, I guess, the past few weeks. That must be the explanation as to why like I've never heard of any of the names of like 15 starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Yeah, sure.
But you watch the game, and they're not sitting there talking about why is this guy starting.
Right.
This guy is terrible. This is bad for our game. Which, it's you could make that argument.
It's the opposite almost.
Correct.
Like
when they make a good play, they're so excited. These underdog stories, like
they love to tell that story.
As a Bears fan, I know you can all feel bad for me. I've had to watch Tyson Bagent for 3 weeks. He has not been great.
Yeah.
He's been fine. He's a D2 undrafted rookie. He's been fine. I'm a big fan. Go Tyson. But like all you hear about on the broadcast is how amazing it is that he's playing this well, and like this guy prepares this way and he does this, and like this is a model character. And then I turn on a baseball game, and I have to hear how terrible all these guys are.
And like I realize I'm probably preaching to the choir, because if you're listening to this show and you're listening to us pontificate near endlessly about the value of this stuff, that like we're on the same page. So I guess if you have an opportunity to share this clip to a friend, put it in this framework. In what other endeavor of life are parents actively being conditioned to take in less information about their children? Because that's really what it is. And I'm aware that the amount of data that we intake here, both the quantity and quality and frequency, is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah. It's literally challenging for us to
do.
100%,
right? Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that, let's say it's October and your child is going to be trying out for a little league team or a juniors rec ball team or a travel team in January.
Sure.
You could just go to a place that's going to give you some information about exit velocity. You could buy Diamond Kinetics or a blast sensor, right? You could buy a pocket radar, and you could just kind of go, all right, let's just going to take 20 swings. Let's figure out what the average bat speed is. And the fact that you have Spray Tan Guy and others of his ilk that are like literally like, parents, don't do that. Like, you're doing literal damage. Like, yeah. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm aware that I'm often hyperbolic. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here. You're doing damage because you're essentially conditioning people to accept ignorance. For what? Like, for what?
Yeah.
What do we gain? And it's like,
we don't gain anything. My question, what does he gain?
Well, so this is an interesting
thing. He is, look, I'm not saying anything, selfish individual, like a highly selfish individual. Go read some stories if you really have a question about that. But like, what is out there for him to gain about this?
So interesting that you asked that.
Okay, are you about to tell me engagement numbers and it's about to make me really sad?
No, I'm gonna go very hippy dippy on you.
Ooh.
So I'm reading this series of books, Sci-Fi Guy, The Expanse on Amazon, the TV show.
Yeah.
So the books that came from that are actually really good.
No, the books came before.
The books came before. And if you're not a big sci-fi guy, if you're not watching The Expanse, it's a sci-fi show. So think Star Wars, but like way more serious and kind of grounded in what we understand to be like the technical reality of space.
Correct.
Right? So if like there are explosions in space, there's not a lot of sound.
Right.
You know, like there's all this stuff, you know, like being put out in an airlock is not something you're going to come back from. Like it's, you know.
Correct. It's like Star Wars, but much more realistic.
Yes.
If you will.
Yes. And there is at a point in the story where something has kind of come into the galaxy that people don't understand. And a point is made that like this is the problem with putting our civilization and wrapping it up in this framework of like binary concepts that are definitive.
Yeah.
Is because we no longer have an opportunity to put our faith into something. Mm. And because I see baseball in literally everything, I'm reading this and I'm like, maybe that's the thing. You know, like maybe what these people have an attachment to is this, again, this was like you just have to want it bad enough, right? And that if you want it bad enough, that somehow, for some amount of people, allows them to put their faith into something that they're going to get where they want to be.
Right.
And that's a different path than I think the path that like the 400 or whatever athletes that we touch in one way, shape, or form, thousands of more of that we sell products to, where it's like, I'm not doing this based on faith.
Yeah.
Faith isn't good enough.
Right.
And like, look, I'll go full hippy dippy on you. You can be as God-fearing as you want and still have an analytical understanding of baseball performance. Yeah. One thing does not invalidate the other, but when you have Spray Tan Guy and other people like that like so strongly advocate against it, I wonder if that's what they're really trying. Like that they're.
For me, I think it's
the depth of their offense is defined by the fact that it suggests that we are becoming like faithless because we're trying to quantify something that previously wasn't quantifiable.
That's fair. Two things pop up for me. Like one, I think there's like an element of gatekeeping, and like
100%.
in some way, knowing that kids who never would have made the majors are using data to help them get to professional baseball or the majors invalidates their journey in some fashion.
Yeah,
like that's I think what a lot of their perception is, and it's sad. Like you would think that they would just like want what's best for the game, like most professionals who played other sports that are publicly talking about things. And it's just like it doesn't seem to necessarily be there in that fashion.
Yeah, it's sad, man. It's really sad. And again, you know, I think that in so much as I'm a guy that talks about baseball on the internet, so I don't know everything, but I think Major League Baseball has a real decision to make about, again, are you trying to curry favor of guys like me, or are you trying to curry favor and interest and engagement with kids who, if you look at Rob Friedman,
yeah, oh yeah,
look at Pitching Ninja, look at Flat Ground,
look at Eric Sim,
look at Sim Daddy, look at what they're building down there, look at the engagement they're getting on our sport, and then simultaneously, like, people are either completely checked out on our sport, or they're checked in and like hate. It's just, it's Charlie Murphy, it's the hater's ball all over again.
Well, I think I probably said this on the pod, but I'm a big Bill Simmons fan. So early, like years ago on his podcast, he started talking about how like for him, analytics has ruined baseball because he used to have arguments about baseball with friends, and now those arguments are like over. Yeah, because there's war, right? There's a number that like we can't argue. We could spend hours in the early 2000s arguing about who was better. Like I shout out Mr. Moravec. No way you listen to this, but it'd be cool if you did. High school teacher. We always used to argue. He was a big Yankee fan. I was a big troll. I would argue Spray Tan Guy versus David Wright all the time, and I would take the David Wright position just to get under his skin or whatever. And that was like an argument that we could have, whether I was doing it in bad faith or not. That was like an argument we could have. Nowadays, that argument is ended relatively quickly. If you're just like, well, one has a way higher war than the other one. it doesn't mean you can't argue about it. Your arguments have to get a little more nuanced, and you have to know a little bit more information about B war versus F war, and let's dig one step deeper. His war is higher, but maybe it's because like he's at a really valuable position defensively, or why do I think this guy's good? And a lot of people either have trouble or don't want to take the time to learn about baseball on that level and have a more nuanced argument. So I do think about that all the time. That like the casual baseball fan, I love having sports arguments with people.
Yeah.
And baseball arguments are really hard to have with a casual sports fan because you can just Google it and figure out who had a higher war.
Yeah.
Like it's not like we're arguing the guy who hit 40 bombs versus the guy who stole 70 bags. Shout out Ron Acuna. You are both of those dudes. But like now there's a war number, right? Like well, the guy who sold 70 bags is obviously going to be worth less, depending on positional versatility and whatever, than the guy who hit 40 bombs.
You can still have those discussions, and I think they're kind of fun in a different way.
They are.
Like back in the day.
But they do eliminate a lot of people.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I get that. And just, back in the day when I started at Driveline, this was literally like within the first week or two. Yeah. I think Engelbrecht was like, who do you think's got the higher war? Like, Cecil Fielder or Ryan Sandberg. And like we just started like throwing guys out there. And just the deeper down the rabbit hole you go, trying to pick like a random guy. Like, well, who's got a higher war? Is it David Segui or I don't know. Pick a dude.
Yeah.
Pick a guy. But yeah, man, like the spray tan guy and just like this abject have less information take is so it makes me so angry. It makes me so angry because you're literally like you're pandering and you're doing damage and you're taking people who could get some information that like, hey, just get a grade check.
Yeah.
Like can you imagine your kid going through like 7th and 8th grade and then it comes to like the time of like high school registration, you're like, hey, so like your kid's failing and you need to repeat 8th grade. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we didn't give you grades. We didn't show you the assessments, but like, it's just not working out.
Right.
Every time a kid hits a field and they're non-competitive, that is playing out. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the story.
Most of my anger at this point is directed towards the league.
Yeah.
Because all of the other leagues do a much better job of platforming people that find enjoyment in the sport and not are trying to actively tear down the current players playing it. And like, whether it's on, I'm a loser. I was watching NBA Game Time this weekend.
Let's go.
Just like, just give me a recap of all the NBA games that I missed. And it's Jamal Crawford and Carlos Boozer.
Mm-hmm.
Two dudes that I loved watching growing up. Two dudes that I never really would have pegged as like studio analysts type guys. But like listening to them talk about how much fun they're having watching the current players play.
Yeah.
And not like Carlos Boozer, a dude who did not shoot threes, who like in today's NBA would either have to shoot threes or he would not exist.
Yeah.
Talking about how hard that is and like how impressed he is with some of these players that are doing it nowadays, and like just gushing about like how cool these players are. The league is more talented than we've ever been. Yeah. And then you hear John Smoltz. And like some of it I was watching I think it was game 1 maybe. And there was a homer hit. Or maybe it wasn't a homer, it was just short. And they made a comment about like with a little bit more launch angle. And it's like I should be happy that they're trying to insert that, but like to me that's just like a troll comment. Yeah. Because like you don't need to say the word launch angle. Like you could say if he hit that a little higher, if there's a little more air under it, a little more loft to it. Yeah. And they're just like, hey nerds, I'm gonna throw your launch angle comment out there. Yeah. There's a buzzword. Yeah. Like give you a little carrot there. Yeah. And it's like, you could have said, hey, a little bit more loft under that one, a little bit more air, and that's probably in the first or second row. And then the color guy could talk about, if his attack angle was like slightly higher, that probably leads to him getting a little bit more loft there. As opposed to like just like assuming that people understand what launch angle is and like the launch angle swing, which doesn't mean anything nowadays, that is just like used. It's like there are ways to do this that don't make it seem hard. And even like when the league tries to like insert some of these things, they're trying so hard that it's like, who is this for? It's not for us. It's that comment is not for me. I don't
Right.
need you to tell me that. Oh,
Right.
if he had had a higher launch angle swing there, he would have maybe gotten that in the first or second round. Like, no, I don't need that.
And I mean, and if you're going to try hard at something, why don't you try to resolve the dissonance between the fact that presumably you want the game to grow and your broadcasters don't?
And that's like why most of
Like,
my ire is with the league is
yeah,
how can they still have a guy like Chris Russo on MLB Network? Right? Like I'll never
I know.
y'all probably or should know what my background is, what teams I worked with. I'm not going to say who it is, but like I will never forget being in a major league clubhouse and them like the players being like, "Hey, we'd rather not watch TV." Like, because MLB Network is just on all day in the clubhouse.
Sure.
And like
Yeah.
that hour, high heat, they're just like, yeah, turn this off. Like literally anything else. Like I cannot listen to this guy. He
Tough, man.
is insanely ignorant
Yeah.
and like just like vehemently passionate about his ignorance.
Yep.
And like he had the whole thing with no, I'm not gonna remember who it was, but was it Jamie? Who was it in the Phillies series? Oh, it was
You mean the whole thing?
Perdomo. With
Yeah,
when Bryce
yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
when he said like attaboy Bryce or Orlando Arcia was it? It was the Braves game. It was the Braves series. Whatever it was. There was like
It was the
the guy in the clubhouse was
Yeah.
like attaboy Bryce or whatever.
Yeah.
And then on MLB Network, they're like tearing apart these reporters for sharing that story because how dare you share insides of the clubhouse? And it's like, how is the league hate itself this much? Like this is the league's TV network, and all they're doing is bashing their own BBWA writers,
Yeah.
their own players, and it's just it's wild to me.
Yeah. And amusingly, on another like old head-esque topic,
I'm not that old, guys.
some research came out that I think was worth talking about
Yeah.
about towel drills.
Mhm.
Now, for anyone that's been living under a rock, I think the towel drill, as long as I've been coaching, and I guess as long as I've been playing,
As long as baseball has been played, I feel like there have been coaches that have been telling guys to do.
towel drill has been around a lot. I've had specific conversations with people about why we don't do more towel drill, and the way that it was always presented, I think generally was twofold. One, that doing the towel drill, where you're basically throwing a towel. I mean, there are weighted towels like that. That's a thing.
Did you know that every towel is a weighted towel?
Lies. Uh, it was designed to develop extension, perhaps even double, if not triple extension. And then some research came out and was like, yeah, rotation is like the highest correlation to thrown ball velocity, so like you probably want to pay attention to that. But there's still reverberations of this idea about extension.
Sure.
And the other thing is that it was kind of thought to be a way that you could focus on mechanics without having to incur the stress and cost of throwing a weighted ball,
Right.
5-ounce baseball. So then some guys and girls did a study using the old Driveline Pulse, amusingly enough.
Good product.
Pretty decent product if you're trying to track throwing, trying to track stress and throwing, etc. Anyways, they do the study with Pulse and figured out that doing the towel drill created 80% of the valgus stress of a full effort throw. So, this whole idea that like you could just do infinite towel reps and there was no cost is dead. Like that's just not a thing anymore. Maybe we could get into the finer points of like measuring that through Pulse versus measuring that in like a marker-based mocap lab, but like
I know we joked.
enough
I'd be curious to see if the weight of the towel actually had an impact.
with different towel weights.
Yeah, like if you actually like overloaded a towel, would the stress go down similar to like an overweight ball?
I mean, with everything that I think I know, I think the answer is yes.
Okay, so let's get some wet
So-
towels up in here.
So clearly the signal is get your towel wet, throw it in the freezer, let like the grip part of it thaw, and then
And while it's in the freezer, just grab a baseball.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
So I popped off and I was just like ban towels because of course I'm gonna poke the bear a little bit.
Yeah.
And amusingly, there's a decent amount of people that are like, Like, well,
Greg Maddux did a towel drill.
sure.
Is that like the first comment?
Yeah, Greg Maddux did a towel drill.
There's a reason, by the way, that MLB doesn't put Greg Maddux on TV.
Oh, dude. I know. I mean, I think a couple weeks ago on our social, I took one of those. I saw, this stupid thing on Facebook, and it was like this completely out of context quote by Greg Maddux, wherein he goes, velocity will get you drafted, but like location is the thing that's going to keep you in, yada yada.
Sure.
So all I did was and there was it was more to it than that. So I literally like erased every word on there other than velocity is important and it will get you drafted.
Yeah.
Some people felt some type of way about that.
Greg Maddux probably wasn't one of those people though.
No, he's not.
That's why you won't hear him with a platform on an MLB broadcast.
And like, I think the towel drill study, because it is a study you can look up. I think it's pre-published right now, but the whole thing should be out now. If you want to go to, it's like the Journal of Shoulder and Elbow Health or something like that. If you're really about that action and you want to go down the rabbit hole, pre-published now, full study is out. If you have academic research access, and we have people here that have access, and that's why I saw it. Again, I think it comes back to the whole thing with Spray Tan Guy. Like, trying to find more information about the processes and systems that we have and do better at those things is like a human initiative. I mean, this is like a thing that we do.
Mm-hmm.
In this active pushback against that type of information, when you think it doesn't suit you, or you want to do the gatekeeping thing, like you said, which I think is 1,000% in play, or some combination of both of those things, it's morally repugnant to me.
Yeah.
It's literally morally repugnant because it's anti-American. It's anti-human being. It's anti-civilization. Like, I'm in the car after practice yesterday, and sometimes Danny and I have conversations about baseball. Sometimes we have conversations about God knows what. The mind of a 14-year-old child, I would submit, is a wild place to be. So we're
a boy even more so.
A boy even more so. Oh my Lord. So we're talking about. He's like, because we drive a fair distance, 6 days a week to get here, and he's like, it'd be interesting to know if we could figure out like what's our average speed, like in terms of these trips, because we'll be on the freeway, ton of traffic, out of traffic, back in traffic, etc. And I was like, well, the thing that we can figure out is we know the distance, we know time. And he's like, what? So we start talking about
it. Tell me he was like, well, what's our top eighth speed? What's our top eighth mile an hour?
Amusingly, that is how I started communicating to him because, sometimes I take freeway speed limits as a little bit of a suggestion. Sure. When I'm driving the express lanes, there's nobody around me. Allegedly, this is a joke.
It's a good reason to have a kid.
Yeah.
Be able to take the HOV lanes.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah. And I was like, well, if we just average 80 miles an hour, like how, would take us a lot less. So we're breaking down this whole concept of like trying to understand velocity average as a measurement of kind of time and distance, right? And he's like, Dad, who came up with mathematics? Like, hold on, what? And I was like, well, driving the car, not going into Wikipedia.
Just blame the Greeks.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't the Greeks. It definitely existed way before that. But
no, because you're literally probably like, some cavemen that are like, we have 4 coconuts.
Right. Yeah.
And we have 8 families.
Right.
How do we,
So if you want to know like geometry, trigonometry,
yeah.
Sure. Like that, mostly the Greeks,
but
right?
We're talking about like.
Yeah, like addition, function. Subtraction, yeah.
Yeah. So, to a degree that going from equitable distribution of coconuts to now measuring bat speed and attack angle, like a lot of mathematical progression, it is simply just a human endeavor to want to understand our world on better terms. And the reason that it galls me when Spray Tan Guy, Smoltzy, Mad Dog, all these people push back against that is because you're pushing back against something that's much more significant than that. Like, to me, it's literally morally repugnant to do that. Because if you're just open to it, and there are programs out there on the baseball side that are predicated on a decent amount of towel drills. I'm curious to see how those type of programs may or may not change in the next 12 to 24 months. And it's baseball, right? So I'm aware that question.
Those guys are definitely reading the American Journal of Shoulder
like,
and Elbow Injuries.
Me, Mr. Naivete, glass half full, and I'm like, I wonder if anything's going to change. And like, man, nothing's going to change, which is disappointing because you have the opportunity to do so. You have the opportunity to weaponize this information for good, and whether that's to help increase performance or help improve somebody's health, or some combination of both of those things, more information is the path.
Yeah. Well, and there's also like this idea that life shouldn't be like most humans would agree, like, I am trying to leave the world a better place. And like do things, most parents would agree, like, I want my child to have a better life than I did. Like that's,
right.
Whatever it is. And like, there's an idea that if somebody else went through something hard, you shouldn't have it easier.
Right.
You have no right to have it easier. If I had to struggle through getting here, you have no right to have it easier. And it's like yesterday there was a tweet floating around last night. They talked about it during the Sunday Night Football game, actually, with like Antonio Pierce, the new Raiders coach.
Yep.
Gave that
yeah, he was like, I was an NWA Raider guy, like.
Well, and like he was a high school football coach at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard this story. His team was up 63-9 at halftime, and he made his team run the entire halftime because he didn't like their performance.
Sure.
And they come out and they won, like, I think they said like 99-6 or whatever it was.
Okay.
And like everyone is like, "Oh man, what a man!" Like, "Oh, this is like great. This is a great story." And it's like, really? Like, I heard multiple problematic things about that story, and that like we're just not going to address because like we're good with. But I there's this idea that like doing it hard is good, right? And like working until 3 a.m. in certain industries, that's a good thing, right? Like you should do that. Like go get it. And it's like it's okay for things to be easier for younger generations because we have worked hard to make them easier. Like, I am sorry to any of these people that you mentioned or any people we've mentioned on the pod that maybe have a short stature, if like that somehow to you invalidates your experience because you had to do it the hard way.
Yeah.
But like that is kind of how life works.
Yeah.
Like they don't do surgery the way they used to anymore, and I don't think you're complaining about that.
Oh no, I mean, we talked just like a couple episodes ago. I'm starting to watch Deadwood with the kids.
Yeah.
Or maybe that wasn't on the show. Maybe it was just us talking. But like, there was a literal stage in our existence where like lobotomies were commonplace.
Oh yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. And like the idea that just because I had to go through crappy experiences, whether it's like hazing, which has come up with some recent stuff in the state of Washington, and like that kind of stuff, that's just like it is totally okay to not force people to go through things the way you went through them. Especially if you didn't appreciate the way you went through them, or if you look back and you're like, man, like that could have been done way differently. Do it differently. That's a good thing. That's progress. Yeah. That's how the world gets to where we are.
Yeah.
And like way too often people want to push back on that because they didn't get the advantage of having like the easy way. It's like, well, yeah, sometimes groups of people have to go through it hard so that it's easier for others. And that's how generations work.
Right. And I mean, if you're going to be about that, be about it. Drive a car with carburetor and a choke. Like,
buy a horse.
Buy a horse. Farm.
Right.
Kill and dress your own meat.
Yeah. Well, that actually might be fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, so now it turns out that like, well, there's only some specific domains of my human existence that I don't want modernized.
Right. I'm happy that like my ancestors found a better way to do that so that I can just go to the supermarket.
Yeah.
But like, God forbid in baseball, like we should make advancements in sports.
Yeah. So, and then to kind of put a bow on this thing, and again, to bring it back, I think a little bit more youth baseball specific, there was an interview on, oh my gosh, I can't remember what it is now. What's the players, their social media channel? It's like the Players Tribune or whatever.
Oh yeah,
they have a social account that's connected to them on the baseball side. And CC Sabathia.
He's big in that, yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
He's phenomenal.
Hey, I wonder why you don't hear him on podcasts more often. Huh.
CC Sabathia,
Super weird.
welcome invite.
Super weird. He's got his own pod. It's
I know.
great.
We have chairs for you now.
They'll just never invite him on anything MLB because he's too honest.
Well, so he was very honest. And he was, he was talking about the fact that he was like, look, I grew up in Vallejo, California. Anybody not familiar with Vallejo? You're talking about, relative to, you're in kind of Bay Area adjacent. And he was like, he was a good high school baseball. He was a good high school baseball player. Had a phenomenal junior and senior year. I think he was also recruited to play football in college somewhere.
I would hope so at that size.
Obviously, phenomenal athlete at that size, right? And he was bemoaning, some of the large organizations that kind of dominate youth baseball scouting. And he's talking about this idea that, like,
he also, with all of that background, he said,
yeah,
also has a at least one son, I believe multiple children playing youth sports going up through this.
Yeah.
I think his son's a senior right now. Or he's a freshman in college.
Yeah, I think something like
Georgia
that.
Tech.
And he was making the point that, the reason that this new configuration of youth baseball that revolves around either the showcase circuit or, club travel teams, and he specifically leaned into the travel ball team side of things. So I will reiterate publicly for the nth time, we in our academy have teams. We don't travel. So you can paint with a very broad brush and consider us just as complicit as anybody else. Fine, but like that particular part of the abhorrent behavior, we do not participate in for the same reasons that CC Sabathia is talking about, which is it's not just that you're paying to be on the team. It's not just that you're paying for these showcases, but you're incurring all this other exponential cost accelerators that come with that.
Yep.
So even if you have a kid that comes from a middle-class family or a lower middle-class family or a lower-class family economically, they have no access at any point to this because even if you could get in the team environment, you can't afford all of the accelerators that are going to come with that.
Right.
And he was like, so consider the sum total of the effect, right? Most major league clubs employ less scouts than they did before because they rely on these type of showcase companies, large bodies that run a bunch of youth events to kind of collect the metrics for them, and then they kind of deploy the scouts a little bit more strategically, which is great if you have the economic resource to be in that side of the pool. But if you don't, how do you get seen?
Flat ground is about the only way with a little income that you can really try to get maximum exposure.
Right. And like, so, I was looking up a bio of somebody that works for, big MLB. And it was an interview that was posted with them. And they were talking about, one of the things that, we feel really proud of is what we're doing, at the youth level. The Play Ball Kid initiative. And it's like, okay, fine. I will grant, because I don't have any way to kind of to break it down, that they're doing a better job of exposing the game to kids in different areas because all these MLB teams have some version of the Play Ball Kid program. Like, okay, fine. And you want to tell me that like the run, pitch, hit stuff, home run derbies that are correlated with little leagues of ponies, that's kind of part of your broader engagement initiative? Fine. If I will grant all of those things, then you tell me what it is that you're doing about the 12 to 13-year-old kids to the 16 to 17-year-old kids and solving what's happening up there. Because if you do your job and you have more kids that are invested and engaged in our game early, and then they come to find out just around the time that it starts to get a little bit serious that you economically have no path forward to participate in the thing that actually would either allow your kid to get better or allow your kid to get seen, what was the point of all this engagement? Like, what were we trying to do?
Check a box.
You're trying to check a box so that ideally when that kid is like 20, 25 years old, then they can buy a ticket to a game themselves if they do that? Like that's fine. I'm sure that works for your pocketbooks. Great. You're doing ticket sales a decade in advance. Fine. Uh, that doesn't make the system as it exists right now, where that amount of visibility and path forward is predicated on money, any less heinous. So, and again, like
And
it,
that's why they can't be the league cannot be the ones controlling any kind of youth initiatives because they have zero incentive to actually get it right.
well, and and to be clear, um, what is the big the youth the event that they put on during the All Star Week with high school age kids?
Yeah.
They do that
Yeah, I can remember.
in partnership with the largest guys in the space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think the reason that we the reason that we give away things for free, the reason we do coaching certifications, what we call EDU, educational products, is because I believe that those things can help a coach like me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, rewind the clock 13, 14 years ago, I was a not very good baseball player who all of a sudden figured out he had to start coaching kids and was acutely aware that, like, I did not know enough. And also, what I thought I knew certainly didn't result in me being very good.
Yeah.
So, like, what type of attachment should I even have to this stuff, right? Um, you know, I, we just, we had a department meeting this morning and talked a lot about, I think, some of the struggles we have finding the appropriate container to help parents understand what we do. And that's going to be a challenge that, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I really look forward to us doing this podcast 5 years from now and going, remember back in 2023 when we said that was a challenge and it's still a challenge?
And
Like,
it's never gonna go away. Yeah.
like I'm aware of that, but I think for me, the thing I always come back to is I think as a parent, again, I'm aware that I've beat this horse to death. We have all the incentive in the world to try to do the right thing for our kids. Like, sometimes when I talk to coaches, like, and I ask, like, why do you start coaching? And a lot of them, like, the initial response is always like, well, the league said they needed somebody. And I was just like, yeah, man, but, like, they told that entire team or that entire age level that they needed coaches.
Why did you volunteer? Yeah.
Why did you volunteer? And that's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that there is a ton of leverage in helping average, everyday recreational baseball coaches understand how to do a better job. And if you do that, you can revitalize recreational baseball in a way that starts to push back against some of these larger economic forces.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think the other lever, the other domino that can fall there is, again, just like all this technology keeps getting cheaper.
Yeah, it does.
Like the diamond kinetic sensor, if I remember correctly now. Well, let me back up. I don't want to deploy anybody's commerce plans. I might have to cut at that. So this is a message to myself in editing. Cut that thing about diamond kinetics. Um, I've talked to people that run big companies and sell technology enabled hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they're kind of pushing forward with their model is that the hardware is actually going to be free. It's just going to be some kind of like incremental monthly cost for the actual software that runs on the back end.
Right.
That's a literal thing that's going to happen.
Yep.
So right now, if you want a Diamond Kinetics or a Blast sensor, you're probably going to pay somewhere between 100 $150, depending on whether you get it on sale. A lot of stuff ends up on sale at the year end. So, like, if you're looking for one of those things, drivelinebaseball.com or just go to Amazon, whatever you want to do.
Or just sign up for AO.
Or just sign up for Academy Online and you'll get one of those things there. You can do the youth Driveline thing anywhere in the world, work directly with our trainers. We got to do a better job talking about that.
Yes, we do.
But that domino is going to fall too.
Yeah.
Which I think, and again, Mr. Naivete, glass half full, I think it puts us in a place where you can start to deploy these tools in a way that it cuts the head off of these large organizations that want you, like, $700 to go do a showcase, right? Or $1,000 to go to a tournament where they're supposed to be scouts.
Yeah.
That stuff is going to, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just going to happen.
Well, because it's, I won't name names of companies, but, like, that's the truth. What you're getting from DK, what you're getting from Blast, that's the truth. It's not some grade they pulled out of their butt to give you.
You're
Or
a 9.
I
Can I
was
be
like
a
an
12?
I was an 8.2, honestly. No. Like it's just totally made up, and like no matter what organization it is, I shouldn't say that. No matter what big organization it is,
Yeah.
they're lying to you in some way, whether it's
Sure.
like really malicious or just like kind of ignorant. Uh, their whole model is predicated on you coming back to another showcase.
Yep.
They don't exist if every kid goes to one of these.
Yeah.
The only way to get you to come back is to tell you that you are better than you actually are. So that you don't spend more of your time developing, you spend more of your time going to show. Well, if I'm good, like I got to get back out there and like keep showing off because I'm good. I got a high grade. Like they gave me XYZ, whatever they posted about me. In one form or another, they're just not. They're using you. They're not being honest with you. They have no incentive for you to be better. They have no incentive to help you develop.
Yeah.
And like these companies do. Like Blast wants you to swing a lot because they want you to see that you're getting better and continue to use Blast. Like you're getting the truth out of those types of things, and it's not. Maybe that's hard for some people, and I shouldn't say maybe. That's hard for some people. I know that.
Yeah.
But it's better than someone telling you you're a 9 and then at college not wanting you. But I don't understand. I'm a 9. How can you not want me? I've looked at other 9s and they're getting tons of interest.
9 is the only thing more than 9 is 10.
Is a 10. And like, so I got to show up to another showcase and hit a 10, right? Like,
there's going to be more coaches there,
right? In June.
Yeah.
Class like college coaches all the time in June. That they're looking to go around the country.
Yeah. That's the right time for that.
Yep.
Man. So I don't know. It's I think we have an opportunity. All of us, not just here at Driveline, we have an opportunity to like line these dominoes up the right way and start to make these type of positive changes that make not only the like, hey man, engagement at the youngest level of the game is great. Like, last week the solo pod I did was all about like, look, if I am going to tell you that take signs at 7U and 8U baseball are the dumbest stomach turning idea you could possibly ever push towards, it would be irresponsible for me to not go like, okay, well, here's how to teach a kid how to hit. So I just talked for like 50 minutes about like the progression from, T, side saw, front flips, live arm, like the thing that you can do. And the more success that kid has, the more engaged they're going to be and the more they're going to want to continue in the game. And that's great. But as they get older, the need starts to change a little bit. So look, if you want to put a bat sensor on your kid when they're 8 and 9 years old, or maybe younger, if you're a crazy person like me, fine.
Yeah, it can't hurt.
It's not going to hurt. Like somebody, we're doing the hitting mocaps right now. And because we're finally doing this in Washington, we're massively increasing the sample size of players in our database, which is good because now we have more context. But I was talking to one of our parents who brought in a sibling of one of our kids, and it wasn't even, they don't play baseball. They were just curious about what we do. And I was like, look, unfortunately, fortunately, I'm never sure which sometimes, my kid might be like the most mocapped athlete in Driveline history.
Yeah, probably.
Only because we've been
for
doing
sure by the time he's a senior.
Yeah, but what I said was, I remember the first time I got a mocap back. I got the report and I looked at it and I was like, that's interesting. And then left it on the desktop of my computer, left it alone. There was no unique coaching insight that came out of it. It was just like, this is a snapshot of where things are right now. And the only relevance this has is when I retest in 6 to 9 months, right? And again, the point about, like you were talking about, technology being a much more reliable source of truth because you're getting it directly from the customer, not a third-party vendor that's taking advantage of the fact that they have technology that you don't.
Right.
You can run that loop every 6 weeks or every 1 week or every 2 weeks or whatever frequency you desire. and build up this understanding of like what development and performance looks like and how to get better. And it's truthful information,
Mhm.
right? And that is, I think that, again, that's the opportunity that we have. Because you have an opportunity to deploy more technology and deploy more equitable access so that people get truthful information.
Yep.
And that's the opposite of the A-Rod, don't ever do it. And that's the opposite of, you know, this ecosystem where if you don't showcase or play in a event, no one knows who you are. Because those two things, showcase and the event, are predicated behind tens and thousands of dollars. It's tens and thousands of dollars of cost.
Yeah.
And not everybody can do that.
In fact, most people cannot do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people cannot do that. And then you're just pushing them right into another sport.
Right.
Which stinks for baseball.
Yep.
For the long-term health of the sport. And, you know, I was talking to a parent like a week ago whose son is got hurt over the summer in a game. Just like real freak injury. And is starting to come back. He got cleared for activity in like early September. And we're like bringing him along really slowly.
Yeah.
And like making sure that we are very, very smart about this, because a kid who has like a fractured arm while on the mound at 14 is a kid you want to be pretty careful with. And what became like really clear is that we kind of got lumped into the larger youth baseball generalization of like, you're only like putting my kid on this rehab program because you want to save your own butt just in case he gets hurt.
Sure.
Or like, you know, you don't want to get sued, which is not a thing. Like you don't want, you know, whatever, all like viewing us as like very corporate. And whether I hope our listeners understand, but like we are literally doing this to try to change youth baseball.
Yep.
Like, would it be great if we made some great baseball players up here in Washington and down in Arizona and in the next stop soon? Yes.
Yep.
Our goal, first and foremost, is to make youth baseball a much better place. And everything we do has that as the North Star to it.
Yep.
So when we're saying these things, when we're doing these things, it is because we believe that this makes the entire landscape of youth baseball a better place for everybody, and a more equitable place for everybody. And like, that is where we need to be. We need to like continue to push to get to that place where the entire, we're not the only ones doing it right. Everybody is not doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Cause there's not a right way to do this.
Yeah.
We have our way. Everyone's going to have a different way.
It's
not, I'm not saying our way is the right way to do it.
Yeah.
There is a wrong way to do it.
Yes.
And the more amount of people we can pull over from the wrong side, and just like not have them do that thing anymore. Like, I don't care what you do as long as it's not that. It's like, that's where we're coming. Like, dear listener, you may think that like when he talks about getting these EDU and these certs out to little leagues and coaches everywhere, that we have like a monetary reason, a fiscal reason that we are like advocating for that to be true. While that's not false, we care about youth baseball as a whole.
Yep.
And that is the easiest way to transform this entire landscape, is getting better coaching, getting better equipped coaches at the youth recreational level.
It's the biggest leverage we have.
When they're 8 to 12 years old, if they're coached by someone who went through a certification and knows what it should look like and what they should do and knows what they shouldn't do, it's going to take a few years. We are going to be at a much better place with the health of our sport long term if we can get to that place. And the more people there are like A-Rod, sorry, we didn't say his name. It's the first time we said his name on this podcast. Well, the more people there are like that guy, or like Smoltz, who are serving the demographic of a lot of these guys that are going to go and coach little league kids.
And that's the problem.
Because like they're, guys, I'm not old enough to have friends who have kids playing youth baseball yet.
Yeah.
But like Those are the guys I watched growing up.
I know, man.
And like, I am smart enough and work in a place and have worked in pro ball or whatever. So like, I understand that they're wrong. I got a lot of friends who watch those guys growing up who would never think those guys are wrong. Because like, why would they say that?
Yep.
Right? And if I have a lot of friends, there's a lot of people out there that are about to coach youth baseball that this is what they think is right.
Yeah. It's it's either an abuse of authority or it's an abuse of power or it's abuse of your voice, but like pushing people the wrong
And
direction.
there's no way they don't know.
I know. That's really,
Because like, it is, you look at, Trevor May didn't retire, right? Is he still like an active? I think he was hurt this year, but he's still okay. Very vocal on social media, right?
Yep.
And then you've obviously got guys like CC who have their own podcast.
Yep.
Brandon McCarthy, although I think he works for a team now.
Ooh, does he? I can't remember.
I don't know, but he's been one that has been like pretty vocal about certain stuff. And we don't hear from any of these guys ever.
Yeah.
We just hear from the ones that want to crap on the current state of the sport.
Yeah.
And it's eminently frustrating.
And again, when my kid gets in the car and he's like, "Oh, did you see, Whoop-de-Woo's 102 mile an hour splitter?" Right? He's seeing that because of Rob, right?
Uh-huh.
That's pitching ninja.
Yep. Because if our sport's not going to do it, there's a vacuum that's created and other people are going to do it.
Right. He's literally weaponized MLB's content against it.
Uh-huh.
It's just like, oh, does that not tell the story right there?
The big one, I think, for me is going to be like, if in 2 years, but for sure like 3 or 5, Joey Votto's like gone.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really upset.
Yeah.
Because that's a dude that wants to make the sport better.
Yep.
And is a great voice and is a fantastic human being. And if they just like let him, he wants to talk.
Yeah.
So if he fades into the distance, that is.
Yeah. What does that tell you?
And like.
What does that tell you about the opportunities that they're opening up for him?
Right.
Because, yeah, and again, the CC Sabathia thing, right? CC Sabathia, year of our Lord 2023, might lose him to football.
Yeah.
And like, look, man, that's a generational talent, right? That's a phenomenal story. A kid growing up in Vallejo, California, of all places.
Yeah, and just like a magnetic personality,
Yep.
like yeah,
Yep,
great dude.
Yep. So I'll ask the question. I don't think we have an answer to, but like, how many CC Sabathias have we already lost?
Oh, I'm sure it's a lot. Yeah.
Right. Like it's just and whether that's from this malicious rejection of information that like literally could help you get better and is going to help kids be more engaged in our game, whether that is currying favor and abuse of power and telling fat old guys like me, just like me, that are also losing their hair, just like me, that like the way that it was when we were young and evergreen,
it's better,
and we were not on death's doorstep,
right?
That was better.
Yeah.
Or it's this this big tournament showcase thing that is just like putting up this economic wall from kids to be able to have a future of some kind. And like in the part that is the worst is we're not talking about a future about like collegiate opportunity and professional play. I'm literally talking about a future where you get to play high school baseball.
Yeah, you get to be good at it. Yeah.
You get to be a good high school baseball player, in so much as that can mean a variety of things relative to your area in the local competition. Correct. Because at the end of that story, you could be done, but emotionally resolved with what that high school baseball experience meant to you. The ups and the downs, the opportunity to learn perseverance, cultivate sense of self, etc., all these things that our game can teach. And we lose it.
Right. And at best, we're leaving that in the hands of a lot of these high school coaches who there's some variance there.
A lot of variance. I mean, we talked about this a while ago. I'm looking forward to like the MLB the Show playing era of high school baseball coaches. If that ever comes to pass, that would be fun, but it's going to take a long time. And
we got the Madden era of football coaches.
Oh, 100%, right? But I mean, if we're literally looking at, another decade, perhaps 2, for that to take place, how many CC Sabathias are we losing along the way?
Oh yeah.
Like, and that just sucks for absolutely everybody.
Yep.
Because, and again, it's not just CC Sabathia, guy that goes on to be a hell of an MLB career. it's not just that. It's probably 50,000 other kids that could just enjoy playing high school baseball
Mhm.
and have some amount of like deep rooted love for this game that they want to pass off to their children, that they want to teach and coach it at some point in the future. You're losing all of that stuff.
Yep.
That ain't good. That ain't good. So I realized we might have vacillated a little bit more towards the youth baseball bummer power hour.
We're back, baby.
We're back. I will say the push for positivity on our social channels continues. I have seen a bunch of good stuff lately. Guys getting after it on the arm care side, which means not wasting a bunch of time playing fall ball and winter ball. Love to see it. I've seen guys celebrating some PRs, which is always great. So if you have more of that stuff, again, the rules of the game are very simple. Post it on your social, whatever that is. Tag Driveline Youth. We'll repost it. I want to shine more light on, like you said, the coaches that are doing this the right way. You might not be doing it our way, but you might be doing it the right way that's not our way, but it's still good enough for your kids relatively have access to, and that's fine. I'm down with all that stuff. If you want to go out there, show your kids throwing plyos, bands, wrist weights, bat sensors, great. If you're doing a great job of running like an engaging youth baseball practice where
And
there's
kids
like,
are having so much fun.
and kids are having fun and they're working in small groups. I mean, I'm down for all of it. So please continue to do that stuff. You got anything else?
Yeah, my
We got
weekly
your segment.
segment.
Okay, we got to go.
All right, so you want to pull up the video? Oh man, that's a while ago in DMs.
I know. How fast can I get to it?
Who's gonna be
Da,
fast?
da, 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 da. This is a good time on the pod where Devin and Jeremy go through our shared DMs and try to find the thing we're talking about. Found it.
Damn it! You were seconds faster than I was. All right, so we got.
Okay. So let's break down this play,
Mhm.
right? So we are bottom two, Rangers D-backs, Tommy Pham at the plate, Scherzer on the bump, runner on two.
Yep.
1-0 count. Let me kill my volume so that doesn't run over the play. Pitch comes in, and it's kind of like sliced out to right field. Christian Walker was the base runner at second base.
Sure.
And it's Adolis Garcia in right field.
Sure.
Adolis Garcia, well-built young man.
Yes,
I would imagine he might get a 9 in a showcase.
I
event.
would imagine he would. He would also be a guy that like an old pro ball guy would look at and be like, he's got to stop lifting weights. It's going to get in the way of him.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
swinging
yeah,
fast and
yeah,
throwing hard. Like
yeah,
he's
way.
too strong now.
Way too big.
Yeah.
So the way that the camera pans is you see Adolis in right, fields the ball, immediately goes into like, his basically a pull down.
Yep.
Right? And he fires that thing to 4. And then it cuts immediately to Christian Walker rounding 3, and you can see he's just got his head down.
Yeah.
Like, not picking up the ball flight, not picking up the coach.
Nope.
Comes into the bag, he's motoring around, and he's dead by like 3 steps.
At least. Yeah.
It's just, he was a goner. And so Jeremy sends us over to me for our segment to kind of discuss. We need to come up with like a catchy name for this. Like, big leaguers make errors too.
There you go. We'll workshop it. Send us some ideas.
Yeah.
The other one we had was, I don't think we talked about this one yet because we've missed a couple weeks. This was the Diamondbacks Phillies, bottom 7, runner on second, 1 out, pop up.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And what is clear from the videos, nobody calls it. They all just look at each other and then it drops right in the middle of the infield and the runner gets on. But how dare your 10-year-old son not communicate how to pop up in the infield?
Yeah.
We should make him run 20 poles after the game for doing that. Because a big leaguer would never miscommunicate and drop a pop-up.
Sure. Except that it just happened in the playoffs.
In a pivotal, they were down 8-0, but like a pivotal game, right? Like in a very important game.
Yeah. And even the Christian Walker thing, right? That's early in the game. Scherzer on the bump, every reason in the world to be aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like every reason in the world. And, when I think about some of the responses that I got about this whole, like, telling kids that they should be just as free to swing on a 3-0 count as they are in an 0-0 count.
Yeah, first off, how dare you?
When they're 7 and 8 flipping years old. One of the resounding replies from one of the guys that felt some type of way was, well, you got to teach them how to win. And it's like,
you're right. No, he's right. What constitutes a win at that age? We have a different concept of winning than that man does.
Right. We're just like we're fundamentally in disagreement about what that means, because to me, having a kid be as aggressive at 0-0 as they are at 3-0 and learning the type of pitch that they can barrel at 7 and 8 years old, that is a win. A swing at a hittable pitch that they should be swinging at is a win.
Yep.
A kid doing like the Vladdy Guerrero Sr. thing, hitting a ball off the ground, I still think that's kind of a win.
It happened against us. You remember this in a game last year?
Yes, I do.
And I will tell you, that kid thought it was a win for
Yes.
sure. None of my kids did, but that kid thought it was a win.
But like, you're telling on yourself, guy, when you tell me that like your priority is, well, you got to learn how to win at 7 to 8 years old. And you need to understand all these kind of game theory optimal understanding. And the thing I throw back at him was like, well, kids need to learn situational baseball. So let me point out some things that second graders, 7 and 8 year old children are bad at.
Yep.
Impulse control and emotional regulation.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen that.
Complex problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Time and risk management.
Yep.
So
all I could name multiple 32-year-olds that I know that have all of those problems as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, I do risk management, impulse management in my 30s. Oh man.
Yeah.
Square hole, round peg.
Yeah.
You are asking and expecting, to a degree, children to have the capacity to kind of like evaluate and make these type of decisions when they literally, from a cognitive development standpoint, don't have the tool. Right? A lot of decisions in baseball have to do with like risk assessment, right?
Oh yeah.
Right? And to a degree, Christian Walker, if he's motoring down to coming into 3 and sees the base coach and decides I'm head down and I'm going to send it, that's risk assessment.
Yep.
That is risk assessment and understanding from a critical standpoint what the situation in the game is.
Yep.
And he goes, hey.
And honestly, he might have made the right call.
Probably, like, sure.
If that throw is slightly offline.
Sure. I mean, you're forcing the guy to make the right throw. I think Pham's ball, if he saw it, like it looked like it kind of had a little bit of slice to it. Maybe you're expecting some weird spin. It's going to make it harder for him to field, whatever. He's making a decision based on his interpretation of risk management, the amount of time that he has, the distance he needs to get to, etc.
Yep.
7 and 8 year old children are not a good fit for that because they're just not. They're bad at it. They're second graders. They're literally like 24 months removed from peeing on themselves at night. What are we talking about?
They're bad at so many things that we need to lean into the things they're not bad at, which is having a childlike sense of wonder and being moldable to learn.
Well, and and the funny thing is like, again, I'm talking to my mom this morning, and she's like, well, you know what? It just doesn't also sound very fun. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like the Parks and Rec episode, which I think about a lot, where I don't know if you remember this one, where Ron was coaching a basketball team and Andy was coaching. They only had two basketball teams in the entire city. One was Andy and one was Ron.
Yeah.
And Andy's team was like absolute chaos.
Yeah.
It was a focus on fun with a second focus on mental. And like Ron is like having him do the layup lines and whatever. And I don't know if you remember how it ends, but Ron, the red ass old coach,
he
gets
Bobby
really
Knight
mad
said, right?
at Tom, who's being a bad ref.
Yeah.
Gets really mad at the ref, throws a chair at him, walks off the court, and his team forfeits the game.
Yeah.
And Andy's team has all the fun.
Yes.
The team that isn't good and didn't do any kind of development stuff, they had a great time.
Yeah.
And all I can think of is when they have that league next year, which team are both teams getting full retention signing up?
Boy.
Because one team clearly had a lot more fun than the other team in that scenario. But yeah, we talk about what's a win. I often think about maybe the most thrown around cliche in baseball, which is even the best players fail 7 out of 10 times.
Yep.
I hate that so much. It's not failing to get out. You can you can have 10 great at-bats and go 0 for 10. You didn't fail. You could have 10 awful at-bats and find 4 bloop singles in there and go 4 for 10. You did not succeed 40% of the time.
Yep.
We are, like, that is thrown around all the time with, like, I understand and appreciate the concept of baseball's hard. We need to let them know how hard it is as frequently as possible because that is a real thing.
Yeah.
But telling them that it's a failure to not get a hit is really, really tough.
Right.
And, like, it's also, like, look at today's baseball. It's just not true. But, like, that it irks me. But, like, it's the same concept of, like, we know how we define wins.
Yep.
I also think they know how they define wins, and that's okay that we have a different definition. I just hope that guy doesn't have to doesn't get to coach kids.
And that's the worst part about it. And I think it tells you exactly how far we've come off the path. Is that you can say with a straight face that, like, 7 and 8-year-old children are at this desperate need to learn the specific win condition.
I mean, if you get down to first principles, which is the thing we like to do at Driveline,
yes,
that's probably the fundamental question.
Yeah.
That we need an answer to.
100%.
What's a win will look like to you?
Yep.
What does winning look like to you?
Yep.
If the only answer is, like, getting a hit, scoring a run, and winning a game, you are not the coach that I want coaching my child.
It's in that fundamental lack of agreement on those terms is to me that is the genesis of every problem we have in youth baseball. It starts with the fact that we can't just come to an agreement about what the fucking point is supposed to be.
Yep.
What's the intention supposed to be?
Yep.
I have no problem whatsoever if you're coaching a high school baseball team and you want to do whatever necessary. Man, it's your purview. We're talking about second graders.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about third, fourth, fifth graders. And, like, they're at the start of this journey, right? Or what should be a journey. But if the journey ends up being perverted by this thing, an incorrect understanding of what winning actually is, we're setting them up for a very short amount of time in our game.
Yep.
Like, we're setting it up for the ride to end prematurely.
Yep.
Like, when we did the speech at, the talk at the end of, last year, right? I said to everybody in the academy, it's like, look, someone is going to tell you that you can't play this game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But the more that I think about it, I think the conditions we've created now to set it up so kids are making that decision.
That's the goal. The goal is for every athlete who ever comes to Driveline, whether it's academy or older, the goal is hang it up on your own terms.
Yep.
You don't want anybody to ever tell you you can't play this game anymore. And the only way to do that is to work really hard and do the things that the regular baseball coaches are probably telling you not to, is to do it differently.
Yeah.
And, like, we can wrap up on it here, but, like, the speech I gave to my team last Friday after practice was, we're in November now. Most of kids your age who play baseball around the world, the country specifically, are not going to do anything for the next 2-3 months.
Yeah.
They played fall ball. They're probably not going to do a whole lot, maybe throw a handful of bullpens, and then they're going to go try out for baseball. This is your time to go steal their roster spot.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing what you're about to do over the next 7-8 weeks and lift like crazy, throw really hard, hit really hard, increase your bat speed. They're not doing that thing, so go take their roster spot right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't get a chance to give that speech to those kids if we lose them at 7, 8 years old because they're just like, this sucks.
Correct. Or
this is not fun.
Or, and this is a thing we say in the podcast all the time, if the kids that they're about to take the high school roster spot from, if they play for an organization who is doing it the right way.
Yeah.
then also, like, I don't really get to say that a ton.
Yep. Yeah.
Because they're trying to develop these kids and do it the right way and not care so much about, like, the winning and results. But, like, I know that that's not going to change anytime soon, and that's why I know I have a job. So.
And, it's just like, for how many decades have we talked about players being toolsy? Mm-hmm. We know exactly what that means, but then we act as if we don't.
Or we act if, like, the tools are born.
Yeah.
And you can't go to a store and buy tools.
You're right. Because, like, scared to swing at 3-0, that's not a tool.
No.
But that's exactly what you're conditioning.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly what you're conditioning at like a formative stage of how a kid start to understand the game.
Yeah.
It's 3-0, so, like, I should just, the pitcher's going to walk me anyways. I should just take that.
Well, and, like, what I don't understand with that argument, which is another, I believe, bad faith argument, is, like, do you think us not giving the take sign on 3-0 means we're telling the kid to swing a 3-0 pitch even if it's a ball?
Oh yeah, the straw man there is
like,
beautiful.
We're just telling you don't have to automatically take it. You shouldn't swing if it's not a strike.
Yeah.
That's not changing.
Yeah.
In fact, we're telling you the exact same thing on 3-0 that old baseball coaches have always told kids on 3-1.
Yeah.
There is no difference.
Dude.
Between what we tell kids on 3-0 and 3-1.
Yeah, I mean,
and there shouldn't be.
And how beautiful is, like, a 3-0 take on something that's, like, middle away?
Yeah.
That leads to
the best pitch you can get all bat.
Yeah. That leads to a 3-1 gap double because you still were just as aggressive at 3-1 as you are at 3-0. But you don't get to be that type of player if you're 7 years old and somebody's like, "Hey, buddy, don't swing."
Yeah. And, like, most of the time, if they're 3-0, either they've lost their command or they're trying to pitch around you.
Yep.
If they're trying to pitch around you, that fourth pitch isn't going to be a strike, so you're fine. Sure. I don't have to give you the take sign. Yep. You're probably going to take it, and it's going to be a ball. Yep. If it's I lost my command, they're probably going to try to overcorrect and throw it right down the middle, and you're really going to take that pitch.
Yeah.
The best pitch you might see all at bat in one of the 3 at-bats you might get all day today.
Yeah, and this is the thing, this whole, we can wrap here. Like, one of the things that kind of came out was like, well, you have to teach this type of baseball IQ, situational awareness, et cetera, et cetera. What I said was like, no, it can be learned. But it's only learned if you give a kid the autonomy to make a decision of their own.
Right.
Right? Like, that's the thing. Because you might have a 7-year-old that gets a 3-0 count, and that ball next pitch might come in, and it might bounce twice when it comes to the plate, and that kid might still swing.
Yeah.
You're still going to get the same outcome.
Right.
You can still say to that kid, hey, man, at 3-0, what type of pitch are we looking for?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that, like, I tried to do, and I say try because this is hard. This is a hard profession. But, like, when a kid does something that I deem low IQ or a stupid decision or whatever it is, I rarely ever, I try never, but, rarely ever do I immediately, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? No. I actually asked them what they were thinking.
Yeah.
Because I want to know. I'm curious. Yep. I don't come at it in an aggressive way. I don't make them feel like they were wrong. I just want to know, like, what was the thought process there?
Right.
More often than not, almost always, well, maybe I'm lucky. My kids are always honest with me. More often than not, it's, I wasn't. Yeah, I know. Okay, so, like, now we will think, right? Like, I know you weren't thinking. It was very obvious. You were looking somewhere else. They threw a pickoff move to first base, and you were standing 3 feet away, and they just tagged you, and the inning was over.
Yeah.
I know you weren't thinking.
Yeah.
But, like, maybe I was kind of hopeful that you were trying to deke the pitcher into throwing over and hoping you made an error or something along those lines. And, like, sometimes you think that they're wrong, and you ask them, and they had a great line of thinking to get to that point.
Yep.
Maybe they made the wrong decision, but everything up until that line of thinking was good. And you don't want to coach that out of them.
Yeah.
You want them to have that line of thinking. And the more they just, like, expect me to tell them what's right and what's wrong and, like, get mad at them if they do something wrong,
right, the
less they have the autonomy to, like, think through these decisions on their own. And all that. And, like, it's the same reason why we don't ever, and, like, I'm not going to say his name, but, like, I had a coach who we have here in Washington who, like, pretty strongly disagreed with me and argued with me about this, but, like, we won't ever call pitches for our kids. That is something catchers need to learn how to do. And the question was like, all right, well, what happens if like he does a bad sequence? Then he does a bad sequence and they're 15 and he learns from it.
Right.
But if I just tell him what to do every time, he is never going to learn through sometimes failure.
And that doesn't mean that you aren't teaching, right? That doesn't mean that kids aren't learning. It's just doing it a different way, because when that bad sequence comes up, tell me what you were thinking there.
Right. And
Right?
and everybody, whether they've played youth sports, everybody has gone through school. Everybody knows that it sucks to have a teacher who just yells at you every time you do something wrong, and like you feel like you can never do anything right with that
Not
teacher.
in baseball.
And everybody loves the teacher that is like down to earth and talks to you and relates to you and tries to make you a better student.
Yeah.
And like I don't understand why we don't have that. But
And again, like, man, you're telling on yourself when you're so truly fearful of the outcome of these type of choices.
Mhm.
7 to 8
It's 7 and
years
8,
old.
yeah.
You are telling on yourself, my brother.
Right.
Like, you're telling on yourself exactly what you're in it for.
Mhm.
Because what you're in it for is not the correct thing.
Right.
It's to validate your ego,
Mhm.
your win-loss column, and again, tell me that I'm wrong. But when is the last time that a high school coach, when's the last time a 12U coach said, hey, tell me about your 7 to 8U season? No one on the face of this planet is having these conversations. So until that changes, I don't want to be petulant, but like, I'm right.
Hope that
I'm
doesn't
right,
change.
and you're very wrong.
I really
So,
hope that doesn't change.
well,
That's a world I would hate to live in.
hey, so but again, we have the capacity to change if you understand that a guy like CC Sabathia, who has all the economic resource in the world now, but didn't come from that place, is literally telling you, I wouldn't be the type of person that I am. I wouldn't have the experience of the game that I had if I existed in this state today.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't get there.
Yeah.
So do with that information what you will. World's Most Dangerous Youth Baseball Podcast. It's good to be back. I hope by next episode we'll be able to
You'll be
reveal
able to
the whole room. With the World Series being over, probably a good idea. If you've got some clips you want to send in for us to kind of talk about,
Mhm.
big leaguers making errors.
Yep.
Man, I think we're here for it. We'd love to crowdsource that a little bit.
Yep.
We'll get back on the positivity train next week.
Yes. The one for me next week, I'll just say it now. Go look up, I can't remember his name, this is gonna be really bad, but the guy in I think it's the Dominican Winter League. I don't
Yeah.
think it's Venezuela, I think it's Dominican, who just like has the most insane strikeout celebrations.
Oh, it's so great,
It's
dude.
so great.
Yeah.
It's like when you watch the MLB The Show clips where the guy's like somersaulting across the base paths, you're like, that would never happen. And then you see it in a game, you're like, this guy's having more fun than anybody I've ever watched playing baseball. And the opponents aren't getting upset.
Super weird.
Yeah, but it's that guy's should be my segment for next week. But that's maybe that's it's not just big leaguers making errors. It's like big leaguers doing things that kids get yelled at for.
Yeah.
So I'll think of a better name for it.
Yeah,
But
that's
like,
good.
why do we yell at kids for things that adults do all the time?
We're gonna get to the bottom of it. One of these days, we're gonna flip and solve it. We're just gonna fix the whole thing. I was talking to my sister, and I was just like, yeah, I probably should have like chosen a more palatable career endeavor than like fixing youth baseball.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's like, I don't know.
You know what helps? Staying offline.
I know. It's tough.
Yeah. No, I know it is.
It's
I know
tough.
it is.
It's tough.
Because I saw some of the 3-0 take
Yeah.
discourse,
Yeah.
and this will surprise you, but I laughed and then closed my phone.
Yeah. I saw the notifications and I was just like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to pay a lot of attention to F1 racing this week.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to my social accounts that just revolve around F1 and
Yeah.
nothing else. So thank you guys as per usual. DriveLineBaseball.com for any free programs, equipments and stuff. Academy Online, you want to do what we're doing on the youth side. Anywhere in the world, work with our trainers, do that. Axpat.com, code DL20, 20% off. We'll catch you next week.
Yeah.
Thanks.